think there should be anyone who doesn't fight for their marriage. I mean, if you don't respect the institution of marriage. So I fought for my marriage, but that doesn't mean that was healthy at all. It got to a point where it's very unhealthy.
It wasn't right for
and
us.
so I have moved on.
Not in the morning, not in the evening. It wasn't right.
Things on Married to Medicine have taken a dramatic turn, and the latest season has brought us a level of tension and conflict that's truly impossible to ignore. Trust me when I say this is the kind of drama you simply do not want to miss. The betrayals, lies, and secret alliances have all reached new heights, leaving us on the edge of our seats. Let's take a deeper dive into the explosive events that have unfolded, particularly focusing on Dr. Gregory and King's rocky relationship, and how their problems escalated during a couple's getaway, a trip that was supposed to be a relaxing escape. But instead, it turned into a mess no one saw coming. At first, everything seemed calm. The group of friends was laughing, chatting, and enjoying each other's company. There was no hint of the tension that would soon unravel. But the underlying issues between Dr. Gregory and King were about to explode. For weeks leading up to the retreat, rumors had been circulating about problems in their relationship, but no one expected things to escalate this dramatically. What seemed like a simple trip away from the usual pressures quickly turned into a disaster. The argument between them came out of nowhere, and it wasn't just a simple disagreement. Dr. Gregory became visibly angry, losing control of the situation in a way no one anticipated. What was initially meant to be a private conversation between the couple quickly turned into an all-out confrontation. The energy in the room shifted from carefree laughter to pure tension, with everyone sensing that something big was about to go down. As the argument escalated, it became clear this wasn't just a small spat. Dr. Gregory didn't just walk away from the situation or try to resolve things calmly. Instead, he made it official by filing a report. This act shocked everyone, as it revealed just how deep the rift between the couple had become. What had been seen as a personal matter now had the potential to be a betrayal of sorts. This moment changed the course of the entire retreat, and from that point on, things would never be the same. While Dr. Gregory and King's issues were at the forefront, the drama didn't stop there. The fallout from the couple's conflict left Sweet Tea in a very difficult position. She found herself in the middle of the drama, caught between divided sides. To make matters even worse, her longtime friend Quad began to distance herself from Sweet Tea after the report was filed.
Married to Medicine star Letitia is slamming Dr. Mimi on social media, claiming that people behind the scenes were trying to have her film at Dr. Mimi's office in order to make her look crazy. So in response to what a comment said that Dr. Mimi and Steve were not her friends, she says, "We were never real friends. They were cast and we were asked to invite them onto the show. There were even plans for me to film in her office, which I refused. I heard it through the grapevine that they wanted to have a storyline with me seeing Mimi and painting me to be crazy. Funny how some call themselves, quote, real friends, yet plan an entire season without even consulting you of what the plans are."
The fallout from the retreat wasn't just confined to the couple's issues. Sweet Tea was now facing a personal crisis of her own. Sweet Tea had always relied on Quad for support, so the shift in their friendship was particularly painful. It felt as though she had been abandoned during one of her most challenging times. But the situation became even more complicated when Sweet Tea found herself turning to Mimi, a friend she believed she could count on. At first, Mimi seemed like a supportive ally, someone who would stand by Sweet Tea no matter what. But over time, things began to change. Mimi's support turned into sarcasm, and the warmth between them began to feel cold and distant. When the cameras started rolling again, Mimi's behavior took a shocking turn. It was as though she had been given a storyline, and she was playing her role perfectly by turning against Sweet Tea. The friendship that once seemed so solid now looked like it had been a calculated move all along.
I was pissed off, and I was like, you know what? Like, why would you want to be there, you know? And then looking at it, like, you've been shading me since the first episode. Like, I didn't know, like, you know, it's just a lot of things were going on behind my back that I did not know about. And I was just kind of hurt and shocked by it. Yeah. And I just wanted to let her know, like, I'm not pushover, and you ain't gonna get away with it.
Sweet Tea, who had been struggling with so many personal issues, now had to face this new betrayal from someone she thought was her friend. The hurt was evident on her face, and viewers couldn't help but feel for her as she tried to process the double crossing that was happening right in front of her. But things only got worse from there. Dr. Heavenly, who had always been one to pick a side and vocalize her opinions, remained oddly silent during Sweet T's toughest moments. This silence felt like a betrayal in and of itself. Sweet T had been turning to Dr. Heavenly for support, but now she was left exposed to harsh criticism from the rest of the group. The woman who had been a mentor and friend to Sweet T was now a ghost, leaving Sweet T to fend for herself. This absence of support was particularly painful because Sweet T had always felt that Dr. Heavenly was someone she could rely on. But when Sweet T needed her most, Dr. Heavenly's silence spoke volumes. Sweet T was now fighting battles on all fronts against her friends, the group, and even the viewers at home. The drama from the retreat had spilled over into the public eye, and Sweet T was now being criticized not only by her fellow cast members but by fans of the show as well.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. Mimi may have tried to set up, I don't doubt it. Shit, I need to sit in Mimi office. There are a lot of people. Mimi is a good psychiatrist. Like, you could tell, she really acts like a doctor on the show. She's clinical. She gives people, but don't be diagnosing me on no reality TV, Mimi. But I think that Mimi is true to her craft. So I don't know anything about that. Like I say, even with Phaedra filming with us, with them, I ain't know that Phaedra filmed anymore. All I do know is that the Met Gala, I wasn't even there. I mean, at the diabetes event, they said that Phaedra came. I wasn't there because me and Quad left early. They say Phaedra came, but they didn't even play her because she had no reason to be there. They did one more scene with Phaedra. I ain't know nothing about that. I don't know nothing about that. I ain't know nothing about it. So I thought that was it for her after the couples trip. But yeah.
As the public's opinion shifted, Sweet T found herself at the center of a storm of negative comments and online attacks. It seemed like everyone had turned against her. The support she once had from the fans was now completely gone, and she found herself under relentless scrutiny. The backlash became so intense that Sweet T couldn't escape the barrage of insults. No matter how much she tried to defend herself, the more she was labeled as the dramatic villain of the season. But the drama behind the scenes was just as manipulative. The producers, it seemed, had their own narrative to push. Sweet T's side of the story was being cut from the show, and scenes that could have helped her were being erased. The producers had a clear vision of the storyline they wanted to create, and Sweet T wasn't part of it. Instead of showing the full picture, the show was edited to make her appear even more isolated and to paint her as the troublemaker.
This is my home. Like, why? I mean, it don't bother. It's bothering y'all more than it's bothering me. This is my home. It doesn't really matter. Oh, who cares? It was their old marital home. It was his home first. He moved her in, and then she left, and then that was it. It was still his home. So it wasn't like me coming here and it was a bunch of pictures of them. No, everything was empty. It was my blank canvas, and I got to decorating and all that.
It was clear the producers were trying to shape the narrative in a way that cast Sweet T in the worst possible light. Sweet T, however, wasn't going to sit back and let the producers control her story. Instead of allowing the manipulation to continue, she took matters into her own hands. She decided to speak up, using social media to tell her side of the story. Sweet T went live, posted videos, and interacted directly with her fans, revealing how much of her reality had been twisted for the sake of drama. She wasn't going to let the producers control her narrative any longer. By taking to social media, Sweet T reclaimed her voice. She didn't hold back, sharing her unfiltered version of the events that had unfolded behind the scenes. Her live videos gave her fans a glimpse into the true story, not the manipulated version they were seeing on the show. Slowly but surely, Sweet T began to rebuild her relationship with fans, showing them the real her and the truth behind the scenes. But Mimi wasn't done yet. She wasn't about to let Sweet T clear her name that easily. In fact, Mimi doubled down on her efforts to keep Sweet T in the hot seat, planting more rumors to ensure that the drama would continue. As if things weren't already bad enough, Mimi went on the attack, spreading false stories about Sweet T in an attempt to keep the negative narrative alive. Every time Sweet T tried to defend herself, Mimi worked even harder to manipulate the situation, keeping Sweet T on the defensive. It was clear that Mimi wasn't just trying to hurt Sweet T, she was determined to make sure Sweet T stayed the villain in everyone's eyes. The rumors Mimi spread only intensified the negative public perception of Sweet Tea. It was as if she was playing a game of chess, making strategic moves to distract and manipulate the audience every time Sweet Tea made a move to clear her name. But Sweet Tea wasn't about to let Mimi have the last word. She had been through worse, and this was just another round in the battle. Then, just when things seemed like they couldn't get any worse, a shocking twist occurred. A private conversation that Sweet Tea didn't even know was being recorded was released to the public. The recording, which was edited to twist Sweet Tea's words, made her look like the ultimate villain. The person who had recorded her clearly had an agenda to destroy Sweet Tea's reputation. Even though she hadn't done anything wrong, the recording made it appear as though she had said terrible things. It was an attempt to expose Sweet Tea at her lowest point, and it seemed impossible for her to escape the damage caused by the edited version. Despite all the odds stacked against her, Sweet Tea wasn't ready to give up. She knew that this would be her last chance to confront everyone who had been working against her, and she wasn't going to let the lies and betrayal slide. At the final cast event, Sweet Tea walked in ready to set the record straight. The tension in the room was thick as she made her way to the front, determined to stand up for herself and expose the truth. In a powerful speech that fans had been waiting for, Sweet Tea didn't just call out Mimi and Dr. Heavenly. She exposed all the lies, fake alliances, and behind-the-scenes manipulation that had been going on for months. She wasn't holding back. The room was silent as Sweet Tea laid it all bare, showing the world just how much she had been wronged. It was a moment of pure catharsis, and Sweet Tea was finally ready to take control of her own life, no longer letting anyone else dictate her story. While Dr. Gregory's lies were exposed, the damage done to Sweet Tea's reputation was already irreversible. The show may have moved on, but the real story was still unfolding. Fans were left questioning whether Sweet Tea was truly the victim in all of this, or if she had brought the drama upon herself. One thing is for certain, Sweet Tea's journey is far from over, and we'll all be waiting to see how it plays out. What do you think? Was Sweet Tea really the victim, or did she get exactly what she deserved? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with the next twist in this ongoing saga.